Welcome to Redhead Rewriting Reality by Kimberly Sue Iverson, the story of my life as I figure out who I am after a lifetime of abuse and share my journey with that. Sharing my journey of building my author career, the struggles, bettering self, and creating a new life. I'm a multi-genre author who's published more than 53 stories and coming to you from the Pacific Northwest. And this podcast is for you because, like me, you love stories, journeys, and you just want to relax for a bit. So let me take care of you. This audio is intended for an adult audience. Themes and topics may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Now, get yourself comfy and make yourself at home, and let's dive in. This is chapters 6 to 10 of Pinocchio by C. Collodi, read by your host, Kimberly Sue Iverson. Chapter 6, Pinocchio's feet burned to cinders. It was a wild and stormy night. The thunder was tremendous and the lightning so vivid that the sky seemed on fire. Pinocchio had a great fear of thunder, but hunger was stronger than fear. He therefore closed the house door and made a rush for the village, which he reached in 100 bounds, with his tongue hanging out and panting for breath like a dog after game. But he found it all dark and deserted. The shops were closed, the windows shut, and there was not so much as a dog in the street. It seemed the land of the dead. Pinocchio, urged by desperation and hunger, took hold of the bell of a house and began to ring it with all his might, saying to himself, "That will bring somebody." And so it did. And a little old man appeared at a window with a nightcap on his head and called to him angrily, "What do you want at such an hour? Would you be kind enough to give me a little bread?" "Wait there, I will be back directly," said the old man, thinking it was one of those rascally boys who amuse themselves at night by ringing the house bells to rouse respectable people who are sleeping quietly. After half a minute, the window was again opened, and the voice of the same little old man shouted to Pinocchio, "Come underneath and hold out your cap." Pinocchio pulled off his cap, but just as he held it out, an enormous basin of water was poured down on him, soaking him from head to foot, as if he had been a pot of dried up geraniums. He returned home like a wet chicken, quite exhausted with fatigue and hunger, and having no longer strength to stand, he sat down and rested his damp and muddy feet on a brazier full of burning embers, and then he fell asleep. And whilst he slept, his feet, which were wooden, took fire, and little by little they burnt away and became cinders. Pinocchio continued to sleep and to snore as if his feet belonged to someone else. At last, about daybreak, he awoke because someone was knocking at the door. "Who is there?" he asked, yawning and rubbing his eyes. "It is I," answered a voice, and Pinocchio recognized Geppetto's voice. Chapter 7, Geppetto gives his own breakfast to Pinocchio. Poor Pinocchio, whose eyes were still half shut from sleep, had not as yet discovered that his feet were burnt off. The moment, therefore, that he heard his father's voice, he slipped off his stool to run and open the door, but after stumbling 2 or 3 times, he fell his whole length on the floor. And the noise he made in falling was as if a sack of wooden ladles had been thrown from a 5th story. "Open the door!" shouted Geppetto from the street. "Dear Papa, I cannot," answered the puppet, crying and rolling about on the ground. "Why can't you?" "Because my feet have been eaten." "And who has eaten your feet?" "The cat," said Pinocchio, seeing the cat, who was amusing herself by making some shavings dance with her forepaws. "Open the door, I tell you," repeated Geppetto. "If you don't, when I get into the house, you shall have the cat from me." "I cannot stand up, believe me. Oh, poor me, poor me. I shall have to walk on my knees for the rest of my life." Geppetto, believing that all this lamentation was only another of the puppet's tricks, thought of a means of putting an end to it, and climbing up the wall, he got in at the window. He was very angry, and at first he did nothing but scold, but when he saw his Pinocchio lying on the ground, and really without feet, he was quite overcome. He took him in his arms and began to kiss and caress him, and to say 1,000 endearing things to him. And as the big tears ran down his cheeks, he said, sobbing, "My little Pinocchio, how did you manage to burn your feet?" "I don't know, Papa, but it has been such a dreadful night that I shall remember it as long as I live. It thundered and lightened, and I was very hungry. And then the talking cricket said to me, 'It serves you right. You have been wicked and you deserve it.' And I said to him, 'Take care, cricket.' And he said, 'You are a puppet and you have a wooden head.' And I threw the handle of a hammer at him, and he died. But the fault was his, for I didn't wish to kill him. And the proof of it is that I put an earthenware saucer on a brazier of burning embers. But a chicken flew out and said adieu until we meet again, and many compliments to all at home. And I got still more hungry, for which reason that little old man in a nightcap, opening the window, said to me, 'Come underneath and hold out your hat,' and poured a basinful of water on my head, because asking for a little bread isn't a disgrace, is it? And I returned home at once. And because I was always very hungry, I put my feet on the brazier to dry them, and then you returned, and I found they were burnt off. And I am always hungry, but I have no longer any feet. Oh, 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 oh." And poor Pinocchio began to cry and to roar so loudly that he was heard 5 miles off. Geppetto, who from all this jumbled account had only understood one thing, which was that the puppet was dying of hunger, drew from his pocket 3 pears, and giving them to him, said, "These 3 pears were intended for my breakfast, but I will give them to you willingly. Eat them, and I hope they will do you good." "If you wish me to eat them, be kind enough to peel them for me." "Peel them?" said Geppetto, astonished. "I should never have thought, my boy, that you were so dainty and fastidious. That is bad. In this world we should accustom ourselves from childhood to like and to eat everything, for there is no saying to what we may be brought. There are so many choices." "You are no doubt right," interrupted Pinocchio, "but I will never eat fruit that has not been peeled. I cannot bear rind." So good Geppetto peeled the 3 pears and put the rind on a corner of the table. Having eaten the first pear in 2 mouthfuls, Pinocchio was about to throw away the core, but Geppetto caught hold of his arm and said to him, "Do not throw it away. In this world everything may be of use." "But core I am determined I will not eat," shouted the puppet, turning upon him like a viper. "Who knows? There are so many chances," repeated Geppetto without losing his temper. And so the 3 cores, instead of being thrown out the window, were placed on the corner of the table, together with the 3 rinds. Having eaten, or rather having devoured the 3 pears, Pinocchio yawned tremendously, and then said in a fretful tone, "I am as hungry as ever. But, my boy, I have nothing more to give you." "Nothing? Really nothing?" "I have only the rind and the cores of the 3 pears." "One must have patience," said Pinocchio. "If there is nothing else, I will eat a rind." And he began to chew it. At first he made a wry face, but then, one after another, he quickly disposed of the rinds, and after the rinds even the cores. And when he had eaten up everything, he clapped his hands on his sides in his satisfaction and said joyfully, "Ah, now I feel comfortable." "You see now," observed Geppetto, "that I was right when I said to you that it did not do to accustom ourselves to be too particular or too dainty in our tastes. We can never know, my dear boy, what may happen to us. There are so many chances." Chapter 8. Geppetto makes Pinocchio new feet. No sooner had the puppet satisfied his hunger than he began to cry and to grumble because he wanted a pair of new feet. But Geppetto, to punish him for his naughtiness, allowed him to cry and to despair for half a day. He then said to him, "Why should I make you new feet? To enable you perhaps to escape again from home?" "I promise you," said the puppet, sobbing, "that for the future I will be good." "All boys," replied Geppetto, "when they are bent upon obtaining something, say the same thing." "I promise you that I will go to school and that I will study and bring home a good report." "All boys, when they are bent on obtaining something, repeat the same story." "But I am not like other boys. I am better than all of them, and I always speak the truth. I promise you, Papa, that I will learn a trade and that I will be the consolation and the staff of your old age." Geppetto's eyes filled with tears, and his heart was sad at seeing his poor Pinocchio in such a pitiable state. He did not say another word, but taking his tools and 2 small pieces of well-seasoned wood, he set to work with great diligence. In less than an hour the feet were finished, 2 little feet, swift, well-knit, and nervous. They might have been modeled by an artist of genius. Geppetto then said to the puppet, "Shut your eyes and go to sleep." And Pinocchio shut his eyes and pretended to be asleep. And whilst he pretended to sleep, Geppetto, with a little glue which he had melted in an eggshell, fastened his feet in their place, and it was so well done that not even a trace could be seen of where they were joined. No sooner had the puppet discovered that he had feet Then he jumped down from the table on which he was lying, and began to spring and to cut 1,000 capers about the room, as if he had gone mad with the greatness of his delight. "To reward you for what you have done for me," said Pinocchio to his father, "I will go to school at once." "Good boy." "But to go to school I shall want some clothes." "Good boy." Geppetto, who was poor and who had not so much as a penny in his pocket, then made him a little dress of flowered paper, a pair of shoes from the bark of a tree, and a cap of the crumb of bread. Pinocchio ran immediately to look at himself in a crock of water, and he was so pleased with his appearance that he said, strutting about like a peacock, "I look quite like a gentleman." "Yes, indeed," answered Geppetto, "for bear in mind that it is not fine clothes that make the gentleman, but rather clean clothes." "By the by," added the puppet, "to go to school I am still in want. Indeed, I am without the best thing and the most important." "And what is it?" "I have no spelling book." "You are right. But what shall we do to get one?" "It is quite easy. We have only to go to the bookseller's and buy it." "And the money?" "I have got none." "Neither have I," added the good old man very sadly. And Pinocchio, although he was a very merry boy, became sad also, because poverty, when it is real poverty, is understood by everybody, even by boys. "Well, patience!" exclaimed Geppetto, all at once rising to his feet, and putting on his old corduroy coat, all patched and darned. He ran out of the house. He returned shortly, holding in his hand a spelling book for Pinocchio, but the old coat was gone. The poor man was in his shirt sleeves, and out of doors it was snowing. "And the coat, Papa?" "I have sold it." "Why did you sell it?" "Because I found it too hot." Pinocchio understood this answer in an instant, and unable to restrain the impulse of his good heart, he sprang up and throwing his arms around Geppetto's neck, he began kissing him again and again. Chapter 9. Pinocchio goes to see a puppet show. As soon as it stopped snowing, Pinocchio set out for school with his fine spelling book under his arm. As he went along, he began to imagine 1,000 things in his little brain, and to build 1,000 castles in the air, one more beautiful than the other. And talking to himself, he said, "Today at school I will learn to read at once. Then tomorrow I will begin to write, and the day after tomorrow to figure. Then with my acquirements I will earn a great deal of money, and with the first money I have in my pocket I will immediately buy for my papa a beautiful new cloth coat. But what am I saying? Cloth indeed! It shall be all made of gold and silver, and it shall have diamond buttons. That poor man really deserves it, for to buy me books and have me taught, he has remained in his shirt sleeves. And in this cold, it is only fathers who are capable of such sacrifices." Whilst he was saying this with great emotion, he thought that he heard music in the distance that sounded like fifes and the beating of big drum. He stopped and listened. The sounds came from the end of a cross street that led to a little village on the seashore. "What can that music be?" What a pity that I have to go to school or else." And he remained irresolute. It was, however, necessary to come to a decision. Should he go to school, or should he go after the fifes? "Today I will go and hear the fifes, and tomorrow I will go to school," finally decided the young scapegrace, shrugging his shoulders. The more he ran, the nearer came the sounds of the fifes and the beatings of the big drums. At last he found himself in the middle of a square quite full of people, who were all crowded round a building made of wood and canvas and painted 1,000 colors. "What is that building?" asked Pinocchio, turning to a little boy who belonged to the place. "Read the placard, it is written, and you will know." "I would read it willingly, but it so happens that today I don't know how to read." "Bravo, blockhead! Then I will read it to you. The writing on that placard in those letters, red as fire, is the Great Puppet Theater. Has the play begun long? It is beginning now. How much does it cost to go in? A dime." Pinocchio, who was in a fever of curiosity, lost all control of himself, and without any shame he said to the little boy to whom he was talking, "Would you lend me a dime until tomorrow?" "I would lend it to you willingly," said the other, "but it so happens that today I cannot give it to you." "I will sell you my jacket for a dime," the puppet then said to him. "What do you think I could do with a jacket of flowered paper? If there were rain and it got wet, it would be impossible to get it off my back. Will you buy my shoes? They would be of no use. They would only be of use to light the fire. How much will you give me for my cap?" "That would be a wonderful acquisition indeed, a cap of breadcrumb. There would be a risk of the mice coming to eat it whilst it was on my head." Pinocchio was on thorns. He was on the point of making another offer, but he had not the courage. He hesitated, felt irresolute and remorseful. At last he said, "Will you give me a dime for this new spelling book?" "I am a boy, and I don't buy from boys," replied his little interlocutor, who had much more sense than he had. "I will buy the spelling book for a dime," called out a hawker of old clothes who had been listening to the conversation, and the book was sold there and then. And to think that poor Geppetto had remained at home trembling with cold in his shirt sleeves in order that his son should have a spelling book. Chapter 10. The puppets recognized their brother Pinocchio. When Pinocchio came into the little puppet theater, an incident occurred that almost produced a revolution. The curtain had gone up and the play had already begun. On the stage, Harlequin and Punch were as usual quarreling with each other and threatening every moment to come to blows. All at once Harlequin stopped short, and turning to the public, he pointed with his hand to someone far down in the pit and exclaimed in a dramatic tone, "Gods of the firmament! Do I dream or am I awake? But surely that is Pinocchio." "It is indeed Pinocchio!" cried Punch. "It is indeed himself!" screamed Miss Rose, peeping from behind the scenes. "It is Pinocchio! It is Pinocchio!" shouted all the puppets in chorus, leaping from all sides onto the stage. It is Pinocchio! It is our brother Pinocchio! Long live Pinocchio! Pinocchio, come up here to me, cried Harlequin, and throw yourself into the arms of your wooden brothers. At this affectionate invitation, Pinocchio made a leap from the end of the pit into the reserved seats. Another leap landed him on the head of the leader of the orchestra, and he then sprang upon the stage. The embraces, the friendly pinches, and the demonstrations of warm brotherly affection that Pinocchio received from the excited crowd of actors and actresses of the puppet dramatic company are beyond description. The sight was doubtless a moving one, but the public in the pit, finding that the play was stopped, became impatient and began to shout, "We will have the play! Go on with the play!" It was all breath thrown away. The puppets, instead of continuing the recital, redoubled their noise and outcries, and putting Pinocchio on their shoulders, they carried him in triumph before the footlights. At that moment out came the showman. He was very big and so ugly that the sight of him was enough to frighten anyone. His beard was as black as ink, and so long that it reached from his chin to the ground. I need only say that he trod upon it when he walked. His mouth was as big as an oven, and his eyes were like two lanterns of red glass with lights burning inside them. He carried a large whip made of snakes and foxes' tails, twisted together, which he cracked constantly. At his unexpected appearance there was a profound silence. No one dared to breathe. A fly might have been heard in the stillness. The poor puppets of both sexes trembled like so many leaves. "Why have you come to raise a disturbance in my theater?" asked the showman of Pinocchio in the gruff voice of a hobgoblin suffering from a severe cold in the head. "Believe me, honored sir, it was not my fault." "That is enough. Tonight we will settle our accounts." As soon as the play was over, the showman went into the kitchen, where a fine sheep, preparing for his supper, was turning slowly on the spit in front of the fire. As there was not enough wood to finish roasting and browning it, he called Harlequin and Punch and said to them, "Bring that puppet here. You will find him hanging on a nail. It seems to me that he is made of very dry wood, and I am sure that if he were thrown on the fire he would make a beautiful blaze for the roast." At first Harlequin and Punch hesitated, but appalled by a severe glance from their master, they obeyed. In a short time they returned to the kitchen, carrying poor Pinocchio, who was wriggling like an eel taken out of water, and screaming desperately, "Papa! Papa! Save me! I will not die! I will not die!" End of chapter 10. This was chapters 6 through 10 of Pinocchio by C. Collodi, read by your host, Kimberly Sue Iverson. Please tell me If there is anything that you would like me to read specifically, I also know that there's a lot of stories that people will post for others to read for free on Reddit. So if there's anything like that that you've heard or read that you would like me to read through here, let me know. Or something to discuss around my writing, or you have your own story that you would love for me to read, either a short or anything else, even if it's just that you would like to have me read like a chapter of your work so that potentially people who hear it want to check out your book or story and buy it or anything. I'm more than happy to read that for you. And thank you for being here all year. And since I started this, I think it was just a little over a year ago. I know that I started it, and then that was when all the chaos with the pets passing and the move happened, and I pretty much took, I think, more than 6 months before I could get back to the podcast. So I consider it more like this has just been this past year, since I don't remember even when I started to post these. And I appreciate you listening, and I hope that you will continue. And I will see you next year. Love you guys for listening. Mwah. More to come. Would you like to make a difference? A gift of 5, 10, 15, or more would make a huge impact on my ability to keep this podcast going for you and upgrade my equipment. With your gift, we can grow this together, because I want to make this the best I can for you. And frankly, you would help so much with far more than that. You'd be helping me change my life. Give today at ko-fi.com/Kimberly Sue Iverson. That's ko-fi.com/Kimberly Sue Iverson. Your presence here matters so much to me, so thank you for being here. I am beyond grateful you chose to spend this time with me. What are your thoughts? Share with me and start a conversation. Just don't be rude about it. Remember, kings and queens, everyone is fighting battles inside nobody can see. Who are you willing to see today? And who are you willing to let see you today? I hope someone can bring a smile to you today, or you can bring a smile to someone else. If you would like the chance for your story to be read, whether it's something you wrote, a story passed down in your family, or have a suggestion on a story to read, get in touch. Stories to read at KimberlySueIverson.com. That's stories to read at KimberlySueIverson.com. If you'd like to follow my socials, I would love to have you. Don't ever hesitate to comment and say hi either. Find me under at Kimberly Sue Iverson for most sites: Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Blue Sky, and TikTok. There's also a Facebook page for Redhead Rewriting Reality. X is the only site I use Kimber Bites on. I also have a newsletter for my work. That's bit.ly/letters from Kimberly. bit.ly/letters from Kimberly. I always try to use the same profile picture and name no matter where I am, but you can always find my links on my link cave. That's KimberlySueIverson.com/link cave. That's LINKCAVE.